There's not many inventions that would redefine mankind or humankind, but this is one of them. This is one that would, for the first time, recreate the pecking order of mankind as well. Which again, that's bigger than the internet. That's bigger than the telephone or the transistor or fire or the wheel. Those are all things that maybe enabled us to get to this moment. And that's the whole idea of the singularity, is that you have this double or second derivative that's positive, and as acceleration continues, we'll reach this sort of point in time that we'll never be able to sort of rewind from. And I think that scares a lot of people. A lot of people wonder what that world would look like. And if it's a one-way door, as Jeff Bezos would say, that you can never close again, maybe we should just take our sweet time and really enjoy this side of the door. The problem is, what if you're 50 years old or 70 years old, and you're not going to see the other side of that door? One of the other problems is, well, what if the other side of that door is utopia? And a lot of people are asking, what if the other side of that door is hell? And we just don't know. But, the thing about that door is that we can't really escape it. we can try to stop it or delay it, but, I don't think that this cat's ever getting back in the bag. I think that people around the world are, at least on my Twitter, are mesmerized by this and can't stop talking about it. And I don't think that's going to change. I think it's going to get worse, or depending on your perspective, just increase dramatically, and we're not going to see this stop until kind of we get to that AGI moment. You have people like Reid Hoffman and others. John Carmack is a good example, kind of coming out of retirement as entrepreneurs and saying, hold on, I need to start a company. I need to do something here. And there's going to be this race to be the first person to kind of redefine humanity. And I think that, sort of taking a page from Ayn Rand's book, that ego is the fountainhead of progress. There's an interest in people to be first. I think that for a lot of people in science and in academia, the only goal you have is your name. Do you last? And people ask me all the time, what's your goal in life? And I always say that if you can give me one math theorem that would have my name behind it versus all the money in the world forevermore, I would take the math theorem and be able to say that, Shkreli proved the twin prime conjecture, or Shkreli proved, class conjecture, or something like that. And, I think Andrew Wiles is sitting pretty there. He proved Fermat's last theorem, and no one will ever forget his name, but people will forget who today's billionaire is or tomorrow's is. And so AGI is like one of these goals that, mankind will strive for, whether we try to stop it or not. And redefining humanity is just something we can't stop. So I think that part of the EAC philosophy is a little bit of inevitability. Is there really a way to palpably, change things? And wouldn't that change be scarier? There's a saying in chess and in some other places, I think it's one of Garry Kasparov's favorite sayings, that the cure is worse than the disease. And I think that, to cure this problem, we would need very, very deep regulation, very, very deep kind of surveillance. We would have, basically any kind of academic thought or action would then all of a sudden become scrutinized, and there'd be some gatekeeper who would say, no, this is not good for society, you must stop. And I think that dystopian world may be worse than the AGI-enabled world. And one we know for sure is bad. The other one we're not sure if it's going to be good or bad. So I think that, most academics and scientists and tinkerers don't want to live in a world where we're told what to do, and we may have to work in secret. Or, there have been a lot of jokes in this part of Twitter where, they've talked about AI kind of and GPU clusters and things like that. I have a friend who runs the, probably the largest independent GPU sort of outsourcing shop. And, to even think about that kind of a warehouse, if you will, or a data center could be, something that's, a military kind of, or security kind of related risks, or nation state kind of risks is like a little bit embarrassing. You have a lot of people that are just trying to do interesting math problems, and I'm not trying to sort of like make apologies for what this is. As I've said, it's the most seminal moment in human history in many ways. But at the same time, I think, seeing the results and seeing the GPT-4 in the mirror, makes people wonder if we, want to stop here or pause here. And, I don't know the answer to that. I know what my opinion is, but I also think that, it's some time before, we'll be there. I do think like people like Yohi, have the right idea that, we're going to get agency out of these machines relatively quickly. With advances in robotics, maybe you'll even see something that can do things in the physical world. But I think for most part, we're safe because most of the I/O or input-output interface here is API. And I've been working very hard to make it so that it's not a call and response paradigm. I think that's the one thing everybody's missing. Maybe I shouldn't even be revealing that or talking about that, but I think that the current paradigm of you call an API and you get an API response over HTTP, that's something that's got to go. That's not how humans talk. That's not how humans interact, and it's not hard to. It's not easy either, but it's not hard to sort of get these machines to think about it more like the way we think about it over a socket, and find the right moment to interject in a chat. And if you talk to, we used to have AOL Instant Messenger, and that was like a very socket-like connection where you can really feel the other person communicating. And that app is sort of gone. We kind of have it a little bit still in SMS and WhatsApp and stuff like that. But, asynchronous communication is one thing, but when you are really synced up with somebody, you can sort of tell, you can watch them type, then they erase, then they stop, then they think again, then they say this, then they say, oh, wait, never mind. You get that sort of real feel of somebody thinking and talking, and these machines don't do that. Maybe that's for the better. But I think that in a room of 10 people, let's say at a party, an AGI would have a difficult time. Every single time the person said something, the response would come back for every single one of the comments that other 10 people are making. And we all know that at a party or in a social setting, I don't know about you guys, but most of the time you're supposed to wait, think, talk sort of at the right times, and your timing can influence how much people like you or don't dislike you or whatever. And it'd be very awkward if you responded to every single post or every single speech act that every single person made. And so I think that's like one more milestone that's very small but important to make. And agency and things like that are coming. And so what will happen from the safety side? Like I said, this sort of call and response API or even my WebSocket API is not dangerous. This is the kind of thing that could easily be unplugged, easily canceled, easily deleted. If it starts to make too much trouble, it wouldn't be hard to press Control-C and break the cycle. I don't think that's dangerous. I think that when you get into robotics and drones and things like that, you certainly could be looking at something dangerous. But guess what? We have laws. We still have law enforcement. We still have things that could stop somebody who wanted to weaponize technology. And people can weaponize technology today. They do sometimes. And we stop them. And I think that the dangers will grow. But I think that we'll be able to catch up with some of that, and to some extent, like I said, it's Pandora's box. We're going to have to cross this Rubicon one way or the other. I think we shouldn't cross it with fear, but optimism, and with a collective spirit that the technology will make the world better as it always has been. And this is the ultimate form of technology, so maybe it'll be the ultimate form of betterment. That's my hope, at least. So anyway, I just thought I'd share some comments on AI and kind of where I think things are going and how important this moment is, but also, again, putting my financial hat on, I do think we're going to get kind of a bubble of epic proportions. It's important for bubbles to sort of have something that people can chase financially, and one of the problems with our current stock market is we don't really have that. It'll be really interesting to see if companies will go public to kind of tap into that. When the internet companies went public, they didn't have any revenue either, and you'd have $5 billion valuations of companies with literally no revenue, just a website. And I don't think that's out of the question here. I think that when it comes to AI, such a transformative technology, it may be the case that happens. It also may be the case that the venture community starts to put money in at very high prices. That's typically what's limited, these companies from staying private, is that the access to the capital is the frothiest in the public markets, and that'll never change to some extent. But we've also seen like an equilibrium grow between sort of late stage hedge funds and venture capital and the IPO world where we've actually seen companies, I'm thinking of a bunch in the healthcare IT space, that have had their peak valuations in private crossover type rounds. So I still think that the public markets are still probably the frothiest and the best place to sort of go public. So it'll be interesting if I don't know how early I am in this, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, that we start seeing a whole bunch of AI companies go public. Some that were pretty much just started right then and there, and the companies like all the ones we all know, like Anthropic and others that are private, today are going to be like really really big IPOs, but there's still an opportunity to sort of get in around this and start to sort of be very early to what could be a mega bubble, the bubble to end all bubbles. Last thing I'll say before I sort of make this a little more conversational is one of the most fascinating things that Kurzweil talked about in his book is that after AGI, money becomes meaningless. And I think that's a really interesting point. He basically said that after there's a singularity, the machines are able to do all the work for us, and there's virtually no resource or need to work for anyone, and UBI kind of becomes a new paradigm. And I actually think that we're starting to get there today a little bit, and I do think UBI is also inevitable. I'm not sure we will see the utopia that Kurzweil predicted, but I do think that I understand his point really well, and the idea that money and property, all those things sort of become like, kind of secondary and unimportant. And what does that civilization, what does that world look like? I think we're starting to get there a little bit. I've talked a lot about how financial assets and attention assets are kind of like starting to catch up in value, that the number of followers somebody has could be worth, in a lot of people's eyes, the same amount as the number of millions of dollars somebody has. That you think about a potential mate and you used to say, well, how much money do they have? And now you might say, well, how many followers do they have? And I know that I've been guilty of actually asking myself about people that I've looked at, like, oh, are they popular, or are they famous, or something like that. And it's kind of an inventory item that you can take, which is even really really kind of bizarre. It's sort of a social currency or social credit that's interesting. And so we have seen the ability for money itself to be less important in this new network state or whatever we're entering. And in a post-AGI world, I wonder if money is largely going to be irrelevant because the resources that we need to buy, or sort of consume, will either be provided for, or you'll have this flattening of kind of utility where money sort of becomes less sort of important relative to what actual utilities we need in life. Anyway, I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts or questions or want to talk about something different. Just request and come on up. And I don't really do the raising hands thing. You can just be adults and talk whenever you feel like.